Hello, welcome to our session on how coaching can lead us through COVID. Very happy to have you all joining us today. And please, if you could, go ahead and find the Q&A box for me. If you find that Q&A box, we would love you to just let us know if you can hear us, first of all. So find that Q&A box, let us know if you can hear us. Post your name, post where you're from. We'd love to see who's joining us from all over the world in our global coach community. Thank you. Thanks everyone for letting me know that you can hear me. Perfect. Loud and clear. We've got Deborah from Kansas, Karen from Colorado. We have Sylvia. We have Lee from Atlanta, Georgia, Karen from New Jersey, John from Paris. Excellent. We have got Mary from Toronto, Malcolm from London. Excellent. Thank you all for letting me know that you can hear me. We're also live on Facebook, so I'd love to welcome everyone who's joining us live from Facebook as well. Today, we're going to be using the Q&A box if you're on Zoom with us, and of course the Facebook chat. So you can put all of your questions and comments in there. We will be moderating this throughout the presentation. And we'd love this to be more of a conversation, so please make sure to stay present. We'd love to interact with you as much as possible. I'm Kristen Nolan, the Director of Partnerships for WBEX. WBEX stands for World Business Executive Coach Summit. I will be welcoming on David Peterson and David Goldsmith in just a moment. For the past 10 years, our mission at WBEX has been to raise the global standard of coaching, and we do this through the partnerships that we have with world-class thought leaders to offer interactive virtual learning experiences that can be accessed by our global coach community. As COVID-19 has pushed the global coaching community into an increasingly remote model sooner than anticipated, we felt very compelled to take action. So we're here to support coaches, leaders, teams, and individuals in pursuit of effective remote coaching interactions. Right now, WBEX is partnering with many of our thought leaders and presenters to bring coaches what they need to get through these times brought on by the pandemic around the world. And we've created a free remote coaching community where coaches like you can get access to the latest thoughts, ideas, and knowledge from everyone when it comes to the best virtual coaching and leadership practices. We're going to put a link for you to join that. Again, it's totally free. We'll put that into the chat box for you now, and we'd love to welcome you into the group. To kick off this effort, we are so proud to have the co-founders of Accelerating Coach Excellence with us, David Peterson, who's Director of Coaching at Google, and David Goldsmith, who's the Executive Director of 7 Paths Forward. They both wanted to come in and make time to share the most that they can with you. So today's session, How Coaching Will Lead Us Through COVID, will last 60 minutes and is designed to help you feel empowered even during these times. So with all of that said, I'd love to bring on David Peterson and David Goldsmith. Welcome to you both. Thank you for sharing this with us.
Thank you, Kristen. It's really lovely to be with you all. The world has presented us some really interesting challenges. We've been thinking a lot about this subject actually for many years, and we really want to give you as much as we can in these 60 minutes to help you move forward. We're going to do this in a slightly different way, and already COVID is interrupting my mouse. Our purpose today is really to help build a sense of community and connection. It's such an important skill to deal with this pandemic disruption that we're seeing around the world. We are in this together. It's one of the great things about coaches is that we're here for people and we care and want to make a difference with people. We're going to share a lot about what you need to do to help adapt for yourself and how you can help your leaders and clients adapt as well. There's different things to do during this time, and we're going to share some of what we're seeing, what we're doing, and best practices we're seeing around the world. This is going to be a dialogue between David and I. Kristen's going to jump in and share questions and interrupt. We're not going to share a lot of slides. We do have slides to share later and a list of resources we're going to share later. So we will be sending those to you, so don't have to worry. We will send those. And we're asking that you really stay present today. one of the real tricks in dealing with COVID is there can be so many things coming at you from so many different directions that you can feel like, I don't know what to focus on next. And what we're really asking you to do is to focus on this conversation today and practice the skill of really being present with us as we walk through that. So David, it's nice to see you. Why don't you let us know what we're going to be talking about today?
Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. So glad you could join us. It's a really fascinating topic, dealing with disruption and COVID. So we're going to try to help you make sense of some of those things and figure out reasonable action steps for you and your clients. So we'll start off by talking about the new normal, like what is going on right now. And the new normal, one component of it is almost daily disruption. Things are changing constantly. And they're changing at an exponential rate. So it's almost impossible to predict what will happen a week from now. One of the things you can do to settle into that new normal is think about a daily discipline. So how do you structure your time and your life to create as much normality as possible? Along the way, virtual communications, virtual interaction is really going to be the key to staying in touch with people, to working with your clients. We have some tips there. Communication and connection, one of the essential things for leaders to do and for you to do to stay in touch with your community, your family, your friends. We're talking about optimism and inspiration as important aspects for leaders to bring to their organizations, to their community. So have some tips on how you can help them be more inspiring. And we'll close with the discussion of vision and values, which is part of the stability that is going to help people manage through all this complexity and change.
I think it's a rich topic. I think we've got lots to talk about over the next hour. Again, we will share notes, slides, and resources with everyone, and we invite you to really be present with us as we get into this conversation.
And feel free to to send questions, comments in chat. We will be taking questions as we go, and we would love to have that interaction with you as well. One of the things to think about in terms of the new normal is this daily disruption. And we think it's really important to take COVID seriously, the social isolation, social distancing. Rather than social distancing, we've started talking about physical distancing and social connection. But stress, anxiety, are really, really common experiences. And I've noticed more and more people feeling like I'm tired, I'm not sleeping as well. And so we need that restoration to keep us engaged and active and healthy. We have done a lot of work on VUCA, thinking about the volatile, I keep forgetting the U. This is so weird. Here's my stress reaction. Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous times that we're in, VUCA. And one of the ways that we look at VUCA is there's a rational component and an emotional component. So the change and complexity are things that we can actually make sense of rationally and try to figure out what's changing, what are the complexity that we're dealing with. And the emotional side shows up in the unpredictability and ambiguity. I'm not sure what this means. I'm not sure what to do. And so people are going through both of those aspects, and leaders therefore need to respond rationally to the change, helping people see what's coming, making decisions, and the emotional side, providing psychological safety, emotional connection, assurance, and help people get more grounded. David, yeah, go ahead.
One of the things I think is really challenging with this notion of both rational and emotional is that everybody's at a different place on the denial and acceptance and fear graphs around this crisis. So some people who are normally really logical are acting very emotional, and that's surprising for people. And sometimes it's the inverse, and people are at different places in their own stress, preparedness, relationship to all of this. And everybody wants certainty, but disruption never announces itself, nor does it give you a time frame. And so all of this creates enormous amount of uncertainty and instability. And as a leader, you're dealing with your own emotional, rational thing. And you've got people on your teams dealing with the same way. As a coach, you're dealing with your own emotional, rational trend line as well as your leaders. So it's a real balance that you have to really be aware of and present to and not resist.
So there's two practical things we recommend here in terms of just dealing with the daily disruption. One is working on your contingency plans, making sure that you've got emergency information accessible, you've got your health information accessible, contact information for important people, passwords if somebody needs to get into your email to check on things for you, bank accounts, and carry your phone with you wherever you go and make sure it's fully charged. So just some contingency plans, so when the next little disruption comes, you've got some way to respond to it. The second is a little more optimistic view of the disruption. And I have a friend who always says, never let a good crisis go to waste. So use this disruption to step back and reflect what matters to me. Am I living the life that I want to be living right now? Can I use this opportunity to invest in my own development, to plan for the future? Can I use this to motivate me to make some changes in my life and my routine? So really thinking about that as a way to, capitalize on this opportunity. What we're seeing with our clients, just to put this into context, a lot of them are canceling or postponing, or in many cases, shortening their sessions. So they often want to connect with us virtually. That's really important here. But they're much more pragmatic and, I would say, reactive right now. And so as we settle into this, part of what we're trying to do is help people think longer term, be more grounded, be more reflective, planning for those contingencies. They're also facing a lot of tough decisions, and often decisions that they've never had to make before. Like, how do I work with a team that has 3 kids? One of my team members has 3 kids at home. So what kind of expectations should I have for that situation? And we're seeing that leaders, I think by and large, are stepping up in this situation. And they're recognizing that in many cases, fast action is better than no action. So accepting the fact that you might have to make some decisions that you'll change later, but action is really important now. People need to see their leaders taking charge and making things happen.
And this is one of the central issues that VUCA brings about, is you never will have enough information. You will never have perfect information. You will never have all you need. So you have to make a decision knowing that you might have to make the same decision again differently tomorrow. But it's much more dangerous to wait to make a decision. It's rather decide, keep moving forward is really, really critical. I think the other thing that you have to recognize as you're working with leaders, I'm finding that whereas maybe 90% of a coaching session with a leader is on their business issues and maybe 5 to 10% is on their personal issues, I'm seeing that maybe 50-50, 80-20 the other direction. There's a need to connect and just deal with all the complexity in everybody's personal life as well as their business life. So leaders are getting hit on all fronts. I'm working from home, I've got kids running around, I've got uncertainty about life, I've got to manage a team virtually, I've never done that. So it's not 1 or 2 things that have changed, but 10 things have changed.
And sometimes, they want their coach just to talk out loud, to process things. So creating a space for them to step back and make sense of what's going on, be a sounding board for decisions that they're contemplating. And so shorter, more frequent kinds of conversations, be available, be accessible to them, let them know that they can get in touch with you. And sometimes it's just going to be for a 5-minute conversation. That's one way you can really be helpful to them now.
One of the things we're also seeing is that some organizations are saying, we don't need more coaching engagements, but we need a lot of spot coaching available. So one of the ways and we'll get into this more, but while it's on my mind, if you're looking to have more coaches and clients in your practice, let your clients know I'm available for one-off sessions. If you're used to only selling your coaching as part of a package, let people know if you need just a coaching session here or there, I'm available. And leaders need that.
So that was the new normal disruptive side of things. Now the new normal daily disciplines. So think about
Peter, or David Peterson. I don't know why I called you Peter for a second. I was looking at your last, yeah, that's my first response. Before we move on to that, Jamie had a great question, and it kind of rolls into what we were just talking about. And she's asking, so many leaders are unwilling to address their emotions and how that affects the way they show up. Please give some examples of how you can get them to note it without giving you resistance.
So I just asked them, what's going on in your world? How are you feeling about it? What's happening? How, and even direct questions like, how are you managing your stress? So if they don't say I'm stressed, I just say, how are you managing your stress? How are you managing through all of this? How are you dealing with the disruption? And so creating the space and a couple of basic questions to let them start to talk about it. Some of them don't have really great language for feelings. So, asking a question like, how are you dealing with your stress? What's going on for you? Where are your biggest anxieties right now? And what's funny about that question is almost everybody I say that to says, well, I'm not anxious. I'm just worried about this. Like, okay. Worry, that's an okay term. That's what we'll use. So they are trying to they're thinking about what's going to happen, and so the anxiety and the worry are things basically aimed at the future, the uncertainty. So if they don't like the emotional language, talk about uncertainty, talk about ambiguity. Those are gateways to see inside their emotional state.
We did a coaching session with someone very recently who's a coach who was overwhelmed with now working from home with kids at home, physician wife, a lot going on in his world, not feeling he could keep up. And what he wanted at the beginning of the session was really practical things on how do I get through this? And once that got sorted out, he says, okay, now can we talk about my anxiety? So sometimes you have to solve the immediate thing in order to make space for the anxiety or feelings or emotions to show up.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And we also had another question that came in from Elisa about more logistics of holding shorter sessions. So she's asking, how are you charging for the short sessions when engagements are structured as hour sessions, or do you do the 5 minutes as pro bono? Just ideas on that would be supportive.
I think in this time, you have to be very, very flexible, and you need to be investing in the future. So if somebody needs a 5-minute conversation, I've got people that have hour engagement scheduled with me. They can check in with me anytime they want for a 5-minute check-in. So that's nothing new as far as I'm concerned. And I'd focus more on how do I serve this client rather than how do I charge this client, and use that as your decision matrix.
There's a great book called True Professionalism that we have used significantly in our work, but really thinking about true professionalism as serving your clients first. And the better you serve them, the more likely you are to be rewarded by additional work, references and referrals, and the money will come over time. So in one way, I'm looking at this COVID situation as an opportunity to invest in your clients, invest in your networking, invest in yourself and your own development if you have the time and space for that. So these are all the kinds of things that will pay off in the long run. Back to the new normal, the daily disciplines. We will look at this from two perspectives. One is disciplines for yourself and your family and your life at home. So setting up a place to work that is for work, and setting up places that are not for work. So you have boundaries in your life. Thinking about setting up a regular routine. When are you working out? When are you taking care of your physical fitness? Are you going for walks? So thinking about all the things that you might do normally, like your commute time into work, how do you use that? Can you use some of the opportunities today where you have more time because you're not commuting, if that's the case? Thinking about what are your meal times? How do you create rituals? Do you eat meals now with your family? Do you have lunch with the family instead of going to the cafeteria and having that with friends or with colleagues? Taking regular time to reflect and step back and get grounded. And then regular times to get in touch with family and friends and community. My wife and I have been setting up Google Hangouts and Zoom meetings with friends. Last night we did something we call Wine Wednesdays. So everybody in our group, we're wine aficionados. So everybody in our group brings a glass of wine. We sit down and we talk for half an hour, 45 minutes. Everybody talk, here's what I'm drinking tonight. Here's why I chose it. And then we just catch up on how are you doing? What's new in your life?
I think it's really important. And I think just like you had a structure and a routine in your life before, the more you can proactively create one rather than react to one or be annoyed that you don't have one. This notion of, okay, deal with reality as it is today. What's the new routine for today? How are I going to adapt? And you're going to discover some things out of this are going to be actually more beneficial, and some things will be more annoying. But you use this as a chance to experiment. What are ways that I really can thrive in this new condition rather than how can I be mad that my old life isn't here? And that's a really interesting challenge to take time on. One other thing to note, you're going to get overwhelmed, all of us, at some point almost every day. Too much is going to come at you. You have 6 clients that need 6 things that you can't figure out how to solve. 2 clients postpone sessions. Your kids need this. And you're just going to be overwhelmed. And what you'll find is it looks impossible, but if you stop and give yourself literally 5 minutes to breathe, close your eyes, think, and get present, that next hour becomes so much better. But in the giant morass of stuff that's coming at us, we don't think to do that. And if we can purposely stop and have that discipline of stopping, we can create some equanimity and figure out how to move forward.
I'm glad you used the word equanimity. I think that is the foundation of how I'm thinking about these times. How do I bring equanimity, balance, optimism, a healthy perspective on all the chaos and change that's going on around us, but staying sane, staying balanced, maintaining equanimity, and helping our clients develop that as well. So part of the daily disciplines and your rituals is about clients. So how much time and where in your day are you working on networking and business development? Where are you working on connecting with former clients and checking in on how they're doing? That's one way to think about expanding your business opportunities, is just reaching out to all the people in your network and asking them how they're doing, just checking in. And where are you scheduling your time with clients? Do you have office hours where people could call you as needed? So think about the schedule that you put together for maintaining and managing your business.
I think a couple of things that you can also use this time for. In North America, in the US, we do not have a great social safety net. There's a lot of people on unemployment. The numbers came out this morning are horrible. In other parts of the world, countries are stepping up and providing, and people are staying employed while they're sheltering in place and getting through this. But there's a lot of people whose lives have been disrupted. And as a coach, one of the things you can do right now is coach those people, regardless of their ability to pay. And you can vastly build your network and get more reps in, get more practice, get better results, figure out how you can get better results faster by supporting all these people that are looking for work or reinventing their lives or thinking through, how am I going to get this all done with the kids at home and all this change in my life? So we're never needed more than we are now. And I would use all of that available time to support people. Again, less about how they can pay for you right now and more about how can you provide what people need. What do people need, and provide it.
And so would I be correct in saying, David, because this question just came up, our thoughts on how to position business development right now? Are folks even up for that conversation? So And I'm assuming that all the things you just talked about is how you would structure that.
Yeah, people don't want a sales pitch right now. They want help, they want support, they want connection. So offer that, try to solve the problems that they have, and in many cases, the business will come.
And the business will come later. People will remember that you stepped up and provided help. People will remember, because this is a place to showcase your skills. If you're available to help, you don't have to go through an interview screen. I'm here to help. And then people get to know you, build a much bigger referral network.
So part of the ability to do that is being able to connect virtually. So this virtual is vital. So if however you've been coaching before, primarily in person, on the phone, video conference, whatever works, the video conference seems to be the emerging format of choice. So the ability to see people, to connect, to see the facial expressions, to interact more dynamically with people, really it seems to be where it's going. So get yourself a good workspace where you can operate relatively quietly. Get good equipment, headphones if you need them, a good computer display, and really learn how to use the different technologies. So Zoom, Google Hangouts, YouTube, different ways that you can reach different audiences. And even thinking about how you, if you have low bandwidth, if your wireless connection or your internet connection is poor, you can adjust the settings on your technology, on your computers, so that you're using less bandwidth. You can use the video for looking at people and use your phone for the audio connection. So some of the resources that we'll share will have tips on how to manage the bandwidth for optimal connections.
A couple of things also, and this is a place where you can partner up with a fellow coach, is practice. If you haven't done a lot of Zoom or GoToMeeting or Skype, get and practice it and do it over and over again. Figure out how to do the invitations, how to do the scheduling, how to start a session, how to share your screen and not, and really practice those things over and over again, not just once or twice, but a whole bunch of times to really get good at it. The other thing to look at is people are going to be seeing your living rooms. We're watching all our newscasters now broadcast from their living rooms and their basements, and there's lots of interesting conversation. Oh, look at the books that this person has on their shelf. So have a coach look at your background with you and see, is that how you want the world to see you? Is that representing what's important to you? And you can use this as advantageously. There's ways to use some of these programs to have virtual backgrounds. So I had people yesterday who had a calming ocean scene behind them. Someone was in the tall grasses. So you can get creative, but invest time to get good at this and really spend time with their coach troubleshooting it. Make sure the lighting is awesome. Make sure your audio is really great. One of the impediments and why people prefer in-person sessions is there are no audio or video issues. So if the audio is kind of kludgy, that gets really in the way of your coaching. If the lighting is off, that's annoying. So take some time to really invest and make that happen, because what we're seeing in our larger organizations who have often preferred in-person coaching, they're now saying, no one's in our offices, we got to do it all virtually. A lot of lessons are being learned how that's getting done. And those of you who do virtually really well and better are going to thrive in the future. So I can't emphasize how important it is to really invest in making sure this part is really, really well handled.
And learn the etiquette of video conference-based coaching and interaction. So, maintaining eye contact, not being distracted, not trying to do too many other things while you're there, especially one-on-one. It's really important that people feel like you're tuned in. For groups, and this is something that if you're doing a group session or leaders having their team meetings, for example, there is an etiquette as well. Not multitasking, being present, keeping your display on rather than turning the display off. So then people don't know, are you there? Are you doing something else? What's going on in the background? And taking time to recreate some of the normal social interactions that people would have. So it's not all business. You really want to spend more time at the beginning and end of meetings, connecting, making small talk, asking about how they're doing. And so the kinds of things that would routinely happen if you just bumped into somebody in the hallway, try to bring that into the technology that you're using. So in the video conference, it's really important because people are so isolated right now, limited interaction with people, that we reproduce some of the casual social connection. And there's also, I think it's also important to cut yourself some slack and let other people have some too. Some people don't want to be on video based on their home, the family, the kids running around, they're holding their dog or their baby. And so if that's not something that they're comfortable with, be very tolerant and empathetic and flexible in how you interact with others and what you expect from them.
I think there's a couple points related to this. One is, again, this theme of what does this client need now? Connect via email, connect via audio, connect via video, connect via whatever. Be really present to what's going to serve this person. Focusing on service is such an incredibly useful decision criteria as to what to do now. The other thing to be aware of is there's a lot of stuff that we can't see that we do every day. So when you go into an in-person meeting, that informal stuff. So really be thinking about, what am I not doing that I would be doing if it was in another setting, and how do I recreate that? Because the absence of things sometimes doesn't show up so easily. So you really want to reflect on what are the things that are unseen that I wouldn't necessarily do, and figure out a way to provide them. That'll help you stand out from the crowd as well.
So community and connection are super important in this world for us, but also for leaders. So as you're working with them, help them understand how to engage socially, show empathy. Many of them are very task-oriented, task-related, and I've seen some leaders use the virtual communication exactly like they would run a meeting, where the goal is optimal efficiency. They show up, here's the agenda, what's up, let's get down to business. And so they need some nudges and some assistance in really thinking about, how do I create that openness and the interaction over these new channels. There are some other things that you can help them do. Use more shared docs and resources. So set up a shared chat with the people on your team, so you can ask casual, informal questions as you go through the day. So we'll share some resources on how to do that. But there's a number of different channels that you can use, and chat and instant messaging is a really great way to help people stay in touch with some of that informal interaction. But also set boundaries. So being virtual doesn't mean you're 24/7, and help leaders understand that those boundaries are even more important than they have been. Some of the leaders that I'm working with are just really, really busy, and they're emailing or pinging or instant messaging their teams. One person just told me she got an email 9:30 at night. And so my first thought was, on a Saturday, like, so what were you doing that you were on email at 9:30 on Saturday night, that you saw this come in and felt obligated to respond? So really trying to respect working hours and let people check out and relax and restore and not feel like they're being consumed. So those respecting personal time and setting boundaries is really important.
One of the things that I think we're seeing is some organizations are really well set up to work virtually. They've had a number of people working virtually. They have more norms in those organizations, and they're more comfortable with it. Other organizations, this is very new territory. They don't have norms, practices, guidelines, any ideas, and the leaders aren't skilled there. And this is a place where, as a coach who's been working virtually a lot, you can help these folks really understand what they're working through and what some of the challenges are, how to think about that. And people are collapsing stuff. So you have a leader, I'm working at home, I had to deal with kids all day, so I'm doing my email at night because that's when I can. Doesn't mean that they are expecting their team to respond at 9:30 on Saturday, but you have to be explicit about what those norms and expectations are, and you have to have some shared dialogue about how we're going to work together. And again, this goes back to this empathy that we talked about. People are doing the best they can with all the tools and things that are coming at them.
Kristen, any questions or comments?
Yeah, well, we're getting some questions about sharing resources and materials that leaders can share with their teams on how to take care of themselves and also to work more efficiently virtually.
We have a number of checklists and articles that we'll be sharing. So I'm still sorting through just to make sure we're not sharing every little thing. That's one of the dynamics that I've really noticed. Everybody is trying to be helpful. And so it seems like at work, every half hour, I'm getting some new resource, some new list of resources, some new links. And so we're trying to curate the best of what we found, what's available, and instead of trying to overwhelm you. But there's so much information flying around right now. And some of it I think is really, really great. So we've got tips and checklists on working virtually, on leading in these times of complexity and change. So we'll be sharing all of those with you soon.
That's great. And we'll be sharing those in the remote coaching community for you all. So, and if you happen to miss that, then you can email support@wbex.com and we'll get those to you. Paul says, great stuff, guys. Can you offer suggestions on how to create psychological safety in a team in a virtual environment?
Yes. So I think it starts with empathy and really trying to, help leaders put themselves into the shoes of the person that they're working with. So I've done exercises where we've basically done stakeholder maps, and I've asked the leader to think about each of the key stakeholders in their lives. And we start with the teams in many cases, but what's on their mind? What is their life like? What would they be interested in hearing from you? What do they need from you to perform at their best? And so really helping leaders think through what is this person's personality? What is this person, what's their frame of mind right now? And we often talk about introversion and extroversion and how you enable both groups to speak up and feel comfortable in meetings. One leader that I've worked with is a habit of going around the room and just saying, 30 seconds, what do you think of this? 30 seconds, what do you think of this? You got 30 seconds, what's your opinion on this? And the introverts, by and large, they don't like that. They want time to think about this. So, I've told her, tell them ahead of time what questions you're going to pose. Let them think about it. Let them come in. Let them formulate a thought that they can answer in 30 seconds. So putting people on the spot in a public setting like that, show me your best thinking right now. Some people can wing it just fine. Some people thrive on that kind of pressure. But helping leaders really think about what is each person's personality? What's going to make them feel safe? And I encourage leaders to ask people on their teams, what do you need from me to perform at your best, one-on-one, so that that you're actually having that conversation. And many people will often say well, I'm fine, I'm good, thank you very much. So the leaders have to persist at that. I think part of the psychological safety is showing that you genuinely care and are interested by going back and asking the question again. So you're creating the space for them to say that. Most of the time, people will start with something that's reasonably, comfortable for them. And as you get the leader to persist and probe and explore, people will often start to open up much more.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm just looking right here. I think you all can go ahead and move forward, and then we can address more as they come.
Great. Please add in questions and comments. So the last section that we have is really this optimism, inspiration, vision, and values. And so it can be a very dark time for some people, lots of anxiety, lots of uncertainty. And so one of the places that stability comes from is clear vision, values, principles that you're going to use, so people know that there's something constant. So repeating the vision and values, making that be the foundation of your communications with people and of how you're starting to prioritize work, which is another topic we want to touch base on. Like what's the balance between work and taking care of yourself? But the principles that you're using to make decisions, people are being asked to make many new novel decisions that they haven't made before. And so rather than making them impulsively, try to help leaders step back and think about what's the principle and can I articulate the principle so people can understand that? So finding that shared language, that set of common beliefs and assumptions and guiding values is even more important today than it typically is.
I think related to this is many people are interacting with this pandemic as if it's a sprint. And then you'll hear people say, no, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I say, no, it's an ultra marathon. So if you know today that it's an ultra marathon, and by the way, that's 100 kilometers in one race, which seems insane to me. But if you know you're doing an ultra marathon, you think differently in terms of how do you feed yourself, when do you rest, when do you drink water, and you've got to approach this situation that we're in as an ultra marathon, because you can't act like you're sprinting. You won't make it. And so that'll gives you a much greater framework for planning. Remember, the virus hasn't given us a time frame, but we can expect that it's a long time frame. So let's plan for that long time frame and play the long game.
Yeah, I talk with leaders a lot about playing the long game. And it's interesting, David, I love the ultramarathon metaphor, but they're also running sprints every day, so it's finding the balance. And, what I really think about as sustainable high performance. So you've got to be able to sprint from time to time. You've got to have the resilience and the reserve, to run fast for a day or a week, to work extra hard, lose a little bit of sleep. But then you have to make up for it. You have to be able to cycle between the extreme investment and just the steady running and running and running. And so being able to think long-term, what are we trying to do? Where are we going? What's the principled way to get through this when I have to make some quick decisions in crisis?
And also when you have to make hard decisions, Lisa is saying, how do you imagine leaders being able to be inspiring about mission, vision, and values while they are simultaneously needing to lay people off?
There are a lot of polarities and paradoxes that leaders are dealing with right now. So the sprint, ultramarathon, the inspirational and optimistic while making hard decisions that have negative impacts on people, dealing with really significant business challenges while trying to maintain profitability. So there are a lot of really challenging issues. In terms of layoffs, and how are you optimistic in those times? Letting people go, cutting back pay, cutting back working hours. I think it starts with principles, and to be able to explain the principles, show the thought that went into the decision, and treat people with respect. So how you communicate the decisions, how you show people sensitivity. So we're seeing a lot of organizations, offering extra pay, even when they're letting people go, giving them extra time with insurance, and just trying as much as possible to take care of people. It is a really tough decision for many people. And so as a coach, being there to help them think it through, what's the right decision and how do you implement it? How do you communicate it? How do you show that you really care about the people on your team?
And I think there's going to be a version of this as we lose team members who become ill from COVID-19. And we're going to have to be equally compassionate around that communication, because that is happening for leaders and teams all around the world today. And that's a new level of people leaving our workforce in a very different way that we haven't had to deal with at this level.
And that goes back to the contingency plans. Many organizations have not prepared for what happens if a third of our workforce is out sick or unable to work because they have family obligations. And so starting to think now about what's the plan if I get sick? What's the plan if half my team is sick? What are the pieces of the work that we can delay or postpone, and so that we can reassign people to the most critical kinds of work that needs to be done. And better to have, thought this through ahead of time, so you're not just acting reactively.
I think another principle that's a companion to the continuously preparing, and as much as you may have prepared up until now, you'll now see new things to prepare for and new things to prepare for. We made the point earlier, the degree to which you can prepare today is one less stressful experience you're going to have a week from now. So while you have a minute to prepare something, buy yourself some insurance against stress in a way. The other, I think, critical piece related to this in this long game is you have to stay flexible. You cannot get too attached to however any one thing is. You've got to stay flexible and be able to bend and move with what's coming along. The degree to which you don't stay flexible makes it that much harder for yourself and for your leaders.
So being mindful, being intentional, thinking about how do I want to react to this? How do I stay calm? How do I build my own equanimity and resilience? And so using this opportunity, never let a crisis go to waste, to really invest in building your own sense of mindfulness and equanimity, practicing mindfulness, practicing meditation to calm yourself down, helping others develop a habit or a practice of meditation and mindfulness, especially leaders. 5 minutes of deep breathing, 2 minutes of deep breathing from time to time will really, really help people stay grounded and centered. The other thing that I recommend in your coaching for yourself, for your family, is gratitude. So cultivating a practice of gratitude. We start many meetings now on my team by going around and everyone saying one thing that they're grateful for. Sometimes that's just personal. Sometimes it's one person here on the team that you're grateful for. What did they do? Why are you grateful? And so sharing those kinds of things creates more of a bond and creates more of that optimism and engagement. And so we really are trying to cultivate that.
I think another thing I'm seeing with many of my leaders is they're finding that when they are contacting their bank or a lender or a business partner, that there's so much commonality of shared experience that the person on their side is in their personal life. Kids are home instead of at school, or they are working differently. So there's a lot that you can connect with human to human, or having to solve the complicated business issues that are there. And so it's creating new, unprecedented connections and relationships where people are spending time getting to know what's in your world, which is actually making some of the decisions and negotiations and problem solving easier for people.
One of the polarities that that was brought to mind yesterday in a conversation I was having with one of our leaders is he was saying that as he walks around the community now, just going out for a walk, people are not looking each other in the eye. He doesn't live in the Bay Area, he lives somewhere else, but he's like, what's going on there? And I think there is a little bit of paranoia. Are you going to infect me? Do you have this? What's going to happen? And so being on the alert for that and helping people show up, smile, say hello, small things like that. Keep your physical distance, which we highly recommend, but think about how you can connect in small ways and be polite and treat people with respect. Make the world a better place.
The other thing that I think we also need to be remembering with our leaders is they, for whatever they're dealing with in their business world, have a whole host of things in their personal world. Their child may have been left in their senior year of college and not going to be going to graduation. Their college athletic career may have been cut short. There's all kinds of second, third, fourth order consequences that are happening for people that if you really interview most people, you discover they're dealing with bunches of these while they're also dealing with all the work-related ones. So I think if we can really connect and understand what people are going through at a much bigger macro level, we can be more human, more connected, more compassionate, more flexible, more patient, more resilient.
Kristen, what are we hearing from our friends out there?
Yeah, so a lot of questions about how to access this video and how to share it. And you all can access it on our free remote coaching Facebook group. You're welcome to invite anyone who you think would find value in these materials. Very happy to do that. And Dino just posted that link into the chat box for you. So Douglas has said, yes, I've noticed that people are waving and smiling and encouraging each other, and that's really beautiful.
It is.
Let's see. Linda's saying, I'm very grateful for the support from two of you and the WBEX team, very, very helpful. A lot of coaches are saying, love the idea of a WBEX volunteer coaching pool. You know what, I've already actually posted that to my team to see if there is a way we could make that happen. So thanks everyone for letting us know that's something you're interested in, and we will do our best to see if we can bring that to life. Let's see, Yennis is saying, what advice or practical tips can we give to a leader that is coping with its personal disruption and also the business disruption?
I think one of the places to start is to first hear everything they're dealing with. Let them get it out of their head, get it in front of you, get it. And then one of the questions we often ask is, okay, which one of these is the hardest? Let's work on that. And oftentimes if you get the hardest or sometimes the smallest, you can get a little place to start. So getting present to all of it and then working on one thing, because it's easy just to be overwhelmed by everything and not do anything.
That reminds me, it's a lesson that I work with clients on all the time about prioritizing. But this is actually a really good time to step back and think, what are the real priorities? What matters most? So really doing a deep reflection on what matters most to me personally, what matters most to the business, what matters most to my family and friends and community. And so cycling through all those different groups with a leader and helping them think about what's important now in this moment, what's important in the long run, how do I balance those? And how do I make better decisions about where I spend my time and energy? One of the leaders I was coaching, I can't remember if it was earlier this week or last week sometime, was saying, you know, I've been so busy that a lot of things I would normally do, I haven't been doing, and nobody notices. So, you know, it was like a wake-up call for her to think about, why am I spending time on these things if they're not actually that important and nobody really notices when they go away? So starting to question, what's the best use of my time? What's the highest, best use for the next hour that I have? What are my real priorities? And how have they changed in the last year that I just haven't even thought about it or haven't questioned them? So that kind of reflection and reexamination and better prioritization is something that's really worth doing right now.
That's beautiful, David. I think two other things I want to mention before we run out of time for coaches. One, as a coach, it's tempting with people who are eager for help to shift into consultant mode or teach mode or just tell them what to do or share information. Your ability to coach and coach quickly is even more important in this time so that people can really get through what's on their mind and own the solutions they come up with. So don't give up, even though you can see people needing a quick answer. The second one is there's a lot of people that are starting out coaching and they're wondering, is this a good time to what do those folks do? Ingrid's asking this question. This is a great time to start out as a coach because there's a lot of people that need coaching. And if you don't need to charge them money and you can start coaching, one of the best ways to get successful as a coach is to coach 100 different people. So make it your goal throughout this crisis to coach 100 different people. You'll be amazed at how much better and more skillful you are as a coach after you've coached that 100th person. So this is a really great opportunity, even if it's only 1 or 2 sessions.
I love that advice, and practicing investing in your own development right now, investing in helping others, investing in broadening your network. These are all the kinds of things that will pay off in the long run. And we do try to get people to play the long game. So we're encouraging you to think about that as well and make the investments now that will really pay off as you go.
Kristen, I think we've got time for a couple more questions.
Yes, let's see. Just a lot of gratitude coming in right now for this session. It seems like this is the exact content that they were looking for and that they really needed. So all our partners on the line here. Again, thank you for your interest in a remote, in the volunteer coach community. And I've already posed this question to our Chief Strategy Officer and let them know how much interest there is. So many amazing coaches in this community. Mary saying this has been such an engaging dialogue. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, advice, and great energy. And Yeneth says, I agree, this is the perfect time for starting coaches. Oh, okay. Well, so this is interesting. She's saying it's the perfect time for starting coaches. And the question is, but where can these coaches advertise their help or offer their help?
I think there's a number of ways, but I'd start in your community. I'd start with your network, and I'd let everybody in your network know there's a lot of people that need coaching right now. I'm providing that service. Please let people know I'm available. You've got to start with the networks you have. If you're using social networks, post your availability there. If you've got a website, post that. If you do a podcast, let people know there. But the place to do it is all the places where you have the ability to communicate is the place for you to let people know what you're providing right now. And the offer you make today may not be one you make 3 months from now, but it's a way of providing service and getting repetition and improving your skills and helping people with needed issues right today.
Yeah, and I would say to say that you provide coaching on the issues and challenges that they let you know that they need support with, or that they're telling you. This is a great question from William, and I think we can end on this. And he says, what works best for you personally to maintain equanimity?
For me, the essential ingredient is sleep. So being well rested. I have trouble sleeping. I wake up almost every night in the middle of the night, have trouble falling back asleep. But that's the first thing for me. And then second, it's staying as much in touch with my deeper purpose and meaning as I can, and taking time to reflect back on why am I here? What's important right now? And then just a little bit of working on being present. Like, what's happening in this moment? And how am I feeling? How am I sitting here? What am I experiencing? And anxiety is very much about the future. And worrying about the past or worrying about the future. And so being in the present, and what do I have control over? What can I actually do that will make a difference? So it's that sleep, it's the connection to purpose and mindfulness and being present in the moment. That's where it comes for me.
I would say all those things that David does are in my category. I actually sleep better, and I've actually been sleeping even better through this, which is really shocking to me. But for me, what matters is routine, and having routine that I can rely on to keep my day structured and keep disciplined allows me to keep order and allows me to stay present to what needs to get done.
So I just have one closing thought. Kristen, I know you'll ask us for closing thoughts, so I'm just going to preempt and because
I'm very predictable.
In that moment, take care of yourself. So, I mean, this is a serious situation. You want to be healthy. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family first. then your business, your clients, those kinds of things. But if you're not fit, healthy, and rested, then you're not going to be as useful to everybody else here. So really encourage you to think about, what do you need to manage through this? Take care of yourself and your family.
Thank you, David Peterson. And David Goldsmith, did you have a closing thought?
I would just ditto what David said. If we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of anyone else. It's really critical, and we are so needed and so important to do that.
Could not agree more. Wonderful thoughts to end on. Thank you, David and David, for putting the time into this session, for creating it, for hearing the questions that came in ahead of time, and really providing all of this wonderful content. We've just had so many beautiful comments come in. For all of our partners who are listening right now, if you enjoyed what you learned from David and David today, you are free to join our remote coaching community. This is on Facebook. This is where you'll find a replay of this session and lots of other great content coming in from other thought leaders as well. So to join that, Dina will go ahead and post the link into the chat box for you. And if you forget it, you can always just email the support team, support@wbex.com. Our goal for this group is to provide open access to knowledge, tips, and tactics from some of the world's best thought leaders. And it's also a place that you can connect with others and share knowledge about remote coaching. Last but not least, of course, if you're interested in learning more from David and David specifically, just reach out to support@wbex.com and they'll tell you more about the details of their Accelerating Coach Excellence certification course. So thank you everybody for joining us today. We hope to see you in our remote Facebook group to get more tips, and we will be posting all the information there. Have a wonderful day or evening, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Be well.